Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to Check Me. This is a little bit different video than I've done before, but I want to talk about how football has evolved over the past several decades and why we're seeing such a change in quarterback play than what we've seen before, even though the quarterback position has been the main emphasis in building a team around. To the point where we've seen teams players like Tom Brady, Rex Grossman, Trent Dilfer, early Russell Wilson when he came. They were so successful without being that extraordinary quarterback. Now, some people may say Tom Brady, he's an extraordinary quarterback, but some of the intangibles that we look for in certain quarterbacks these days, they don't have. Tom Brady had. And let's talk about it. So, even though the quarterback position has been and continues to be the main point, we are seeing the dumbing down of quarterbacks in today's society. So, and I say society because even at the early Pee Wee level, the high school level, the collegiate level, quarterbacks now are required to do much less. And what I mean by that is this: the quarterback position of what is essentially played to be a thinker, to be a leader, to be someone who's a decision maker on the field, who understands the game and is able to go off script and the need to go off script and change things when they can. Nowadays, what franchises are doing, they're looking at the intelligent design of quarterbacks. What franchises are doing these days, and what owners are doing these days, when they hire coaches, they're looking at the intelligent design of coaches to actually run the offense for the quarterback while they're not on the field. This limits the quarterback and his ability to create and make plays. So they may say, "Hey, look, we're going to draft this quarterback because he can fit well in our scheme, right? Or what I want this person to do." As opposed to, this quarterback is exceptional. How can we build around this quarterback, and how can we develop him? Quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Carson Wentz, what they've lacked, and they continue to lack, and Justin Herbert as well too, is the ability to develop the quarterback, a quarterback coach that can develop them. If Jalen Hurts, how can I say this? If Jalen Hurts had a quarterback coach that developed him throughout his career, taught him how to actually read offenses, read defenses, and whatnot, he would be a more exceptional quarterback. Now, I'll bet he hasn't been in a consistent offense. So, what am I saying? The offense nowadays from these intelligent coaches are making the plays as opposed to the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks nowadays are designed just to throw to a certain spots. We applaud their arm, we applaud their size, their mobility, and everything, but the ability to think is gone. For example, players like Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, these guys called their own protections and fronts. At the same exact time, if they saw something, they had the ability and they had the approval to change that, because what they're seeing on the field may not be what the coaches called or what the coaches see on the field. And we're seeing less quarterbacks studying offenses as opposed to studying tendencies and studying film. So we are looking at dumbing down the quarterback. The quarterback plays a lesser role in the development or the success of a team nowadays, because we're focusing more on extraordinary offenses and play calling than quarterback play. For example, Joe Burrow, and I talk about him specifically because I think Joe Burrow has the ability to be one of those signal callers of past time, as opposed to him just being a guy who just, Texas Hold'em, Texas shootout, just throw the ball down the field to certain guys. What can help Joe Burrow is knowing the fronts. So what you'll see a lot of times is some of the great quarterbacks like Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning, they used to go back and forth because essentially Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning will communicate so much to a point where Peyton Manning may see something and call protection. Jeff Saturday may check it, right? So even Jeff Saturday's checking his protection. So when you're a quarterback and you know the defensive fronts that typically see, you know where the blitz is coming, you know where to shift, you know where to move in the pocket. This is more important than your arm strength. This is more important than how fast or quick you are. If you know where a guy is going or know where the blitz is coming from or know what backers are going to blitz or not blitz or stay in coverage, you can see the field and be a better passer. Dak Prescott kind of evolved to this past year, but he was more focused on getting the ball out quick rather than understanding where the blitz is coming from. So you have guys like Justin Herbert. You have guys like Tua Tagovailoa. You have guys like Brock Purdy, where we don't want you to think. What we want you to do is run our offense. Because if you think, basically what Kyle Shanahan is saying to Brock Purdy is, I don't think that you have the intelligence to think or the intelligence to be smarter than what I call for a play. I'm going to trust the center to call protections, and I'm going to trust you to throw it to the guy I say throw it to. This is the same thing with Tua and I forgot the coach's and their coach. I should know the coach's name, the Dolphins head coach, Mike McDaniel. Right? Mike McDaniel has this elaborate offense that he wants Tua to run, but is he allowing Tua to create in the offense and see things in the offense, call protections, etc., or is he helping Tua develop as a quarterback? A quarterback coach should not only be solely focused on running the offense well. A good quarterback coach should be focused on, okay, what protections? What's the offensive lineman doing? Right? What the defensive lineman doing? What the backers doing? How the safety's moving? Because passing the ball is not just about what's secondary, but what the guys in the back end are doing. Whether it's a top-down defense or they play from bottom up, the secondary is not going to be your only indicator of what is going to happen. So the quarterback position nowadays, even though it's still heralded as important, what Patrick Mahomes realized is understanding calling his protections. Right? If Patrick Mahomes understands and calls protections, you see one thing Patrick Mahomes does different than most quarterbacks is instead of running outside the pocket like Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes steps up in the pocket. He understands the gap schemes. He understands the holes where they'll create. He understands where he has a possibility to go before the ball is snapped, and he's gotten good at it. If we can stop the interior pressure, right? And this is why the Eagles beat the Patriots. The Eagles, the Chiefs beat the Eagles. Interior pressure because Jalen Hurts goes out the pocket and then it's a scramble drill. Right? I would rather take Jalen Hurts throwing on the run than I would him throwing in the pocket. So what we're seeing is quarterbacks nowadays focus more on the offense and people applauding big arms and statures as opposed to them knowing the game and being smart football players. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning a lot. Peyton Manning knew what was going to happen before the play was even called. Right? Before the play was even called, he knew what was going to happen to the defense. And if you're on defense and you see, and you can always tell when a defense out of position is when, for the most part, is when the offense makes an adjustment, the quarterback makes an adjustment, and the defense doesn't communicate. If the offense makes an adjustment, the defense should make an adjustment as well too. They should be communicating as well, figuring out what's going on, if they need to make an adjustment. Now, some D coordinators are smart. They may show one thing and let the quarterback make an adjustment, and the quarterback may adjust to what they want them to so they don't move. Right? The good quarterbacks will sniff that out. So what we're seeing is quarterbacks more focused on the offensive design as opposed to being smart football players. Getting the ball out quick is important. And when we think about the maturity of a football game, this is a prime example of what Lamar Jackson and why they didn't win the AFC Championship is because a football game is an extended period of time. And what you do in the first quarter will play and make huge implications of how you can make the defense think in the third and fourth quarter. So if you watch Tom Brady, if you watch Peyton Manning, if you watch Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers is a little bit different, Breeze, these guys would take what the defense is giving them and throw the short pass, right? The other short pass, the other dump off, a 3 or 4 yard pass is almost like a run, right? If that pass rush is coming all game, and at the same time you're just dumping it off, that pass rush by a third or fourth quarter is going to get tired. They're going to get fatigued. Now, they realize they got to get to you quicker, or their defense comes up in the third and fourth quarter. Now those opportunities over top open up. What Lamar Jackson did, and most quarterbacks do, they don't have patience in the game. And some people have to realize when you're facing, some quarterbacks have to realize, some quarterbacks have to realize that if you're facing a good defense, you may only get an opportunity to take the ball deep or downfield in the fourth quarter. So the offensive play callers, this is the problem too. If it's the first quarter, they want to do max protect, or they want to do some type of draw or some type of passing play downfield and the defense is ready. That's not opened up yet. So the offensive coordinators are even more less experienced, and they shift all around because they're more focused on getting the ball downfield passing, rather than moving the ball consistently. So offensive coordinators should, yes, how do we, our short game, our mid game, our long game, let's open up, let's see what look they give us. Okay, now then let's figure out, okay, if we can go deep, go deep. If not, let's work the short middle of the field. Having more options at the short middle of the field is more important. The defensive line's getting paid. Defensive linemen get paid out the wazoo, right? Defensive linemen getting paid more and more to get to the quarterback fast. Imagine you're a defensive line, and every 2 seconds, the ball's gone. But you have less time now. 3 to 4 seconds if you gauge it for a defensive lineman, you can get to the quarterback. These offensive coordinators are designing plays where a quarterback needs 5 seconds. You can't pass protect that long nowadays. Maybe later on down in the game, but at the beginning of the game, it's not going to happen. So why do we have these great offensive minds ultimately fail when it comes to, except Andy Reid, when it comes to the performing? It's because their experience in play calling is only subject to them being an intelligent play designer. Being a great play designer is different than being a great play caller. And we have a lot of great offensive minds who are great play designers, but not actually play callers. So now we have play designers who design the play, think it's great, but then they don't know what to call against a certain defense. Steve Spagnuolo, if they call him the big game, defensive coordinator, he understands that. When you have a defensive coordinator and or coordinator in position for an extended period of time, for a long period of time, they know tendencies. They know what trends. They know what players are going to do in certain plays. They know where they're going to fail. They know where they're going to be at. So they know what to call at a certain time. They know what the offensive coordinator is going to call at a certain time. So when you have, nowadays, a good defensive coordinator says, I don't have to beat the quarterback. If I beat the offensive coordinator, I'm going to win the game. Because the quarterback's only working in the scope of what the offensive coordinator designed and or called. So we have this quarterback position that's becoming more and more important. At the same exact time, it's being dumbed down from play design and play calling. And play calling, being the experienced play caller, takes time. It also takes watching film. You can't just say, I had this great offense, and whoever we play against, we're going to be successful. Right? It doesn't work like that. And I think one thing that we saw with Matt Stafford and Sean McVay is you have a Matt Stafford, a great experienced quarterback, right? Hall of Fame quarterback. You have a good offensive play caller, good offensive designer, and then a play caller who's willing to allow Stafford to work. That was the big difference. And I think the maturation of Sean McVay was, okay, I had this with Goff. I'm gonna play the call of plays for Goff and not let him think. But with Stafford, he allowed him to create a little bit more because he trusted his experience. So I say that because if I want to pick and know who's going to win a game, okay, what offensive coordinator is going against what defensive coordinator, right? And defensive coordinators are smarter and smarter these days. They're getting smarter and smarter. right? Adjusting to a defensive scheme is a little bit easier than adjusting to an offensive playbook. So one of the reasons why Tom Brady did so well is because he spent the first 10 years of his career just learning from Bill Belichick. What they don't show is Tom, and there's a couple clips that Tom Brady talks about the amount of hours he spent in Bill Belichick's office just learning. Tom Brady said that he would go and just pick Belichick's brain. Belichick would call him into his office and then just teach him defensive fronts, defensive schemes, and what to expect. The first 10 years of Tom Brady's career was essentially groomed by Bill Belichick. And that type of nature is something that Tom Brady instilled in himself from Bill Belichick. So having that type of offensive mind or coach that can develop you over time. I mean, imagine sitting there. Hey, this is our front. This is what our backers are doing. This is what we're doing on the back end. If we do this, this happens. If we do this, this happens. If we do this, this happens. He's talking to a defensive mind of all the tendencies that Belichick probably knows of the opposing defensive coach. And he's instilling that in Tom Brady. So Tom Brady took that practice and applied it in his own life and his own game. So, yes, our quarterbacks, there are a lot of great quarterbacks. I think there's some good quarterbacks out there. We saw Lamar Jackson just flow well in a new offense. One thing Lamar Jackson had to realize in that playoff game is be mature. Have maturity with the game. Allow the game to come with you. Don't force things. The opportunities are going to come. And it may be that short window in the third or fourth quarter. Why were these good quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, good the last second? Because they knew what you're going to do. And that was the only opportunity they had to strike, and they strike. But what they do, they manage the game well. So the maturation of a quarterback now these days is being stunted by coaches that believe that design is more important than the development of a quarterback. And they're unexperienced play callers putting their quarterbacks in situations where they don't create, nor are they equipped with the skill to improvise when needed. Andy Reid figured that out. And Patrick Mahomes took, as much as we don't like top Patrick Mahomes, he developed himself from year one he's in the league until now. And that's why he has 3 Super Bowls. So I go on to say that because when we look at drafting guys, when we look at offenses, when we look at looking at game film, we have to understand offensive design, offensive play calling, and then also quarterback development. These are 3 indicators of a successful offense. Is it design there for the team to win with the personnel? Do we have an experienced play caller that knows when and how to play calls? And then third thing, are we developing a quarterback not only to fit the scheme of the offense, but also his football IQ and knowledge? And if you have those 3 things, then you're going to have a successful career and a successful team. And a successful quarterback. But what we see is offensive coordinators shifting, not developing a groove, how to call plays, not studying the opposing. They're focusing more on their offense as opposed to what the defense is going to do. If I know you're going to throw the right hook, I'm going to dodge it every time. Every time. So think about the maturation of a quarterback and how they should evolve, and why we should not be fascinated by Joe Milton's big arm, why we should not be fascinated by Anthony Richardson's stature, why we should not be fascinated by Josh Allen's stature. We're not fascinated by Justin Herbert's stature and arm. We should not be fascinated by Trevor Lawrence's stature and arm. We should be fascinated by quarterbacks being able to develop over time and learn the offense, learn the scheme, learn defenses, learn the fronts, and be able to be a football player as opposed to a puppet in the offense. So when we think about football and we look at it, we have to look at it from this perspective as opposed to a perspective of, oh yeah, like he's a good quarterback. He's supposed to win, but why doesn't he win? And here are the reasons why. So that's all I have to say about that. Tell me what you guys think in the bottom. This is the way I think about offenses and defenses, how to approach it, and how we've seen football evolve over time. Thank you all for tuning in.